Analysis Edition!
We're going to study the Great Australian Bakeoff!
With more anal analysis!
Now with your hosts, Chris!
And Kristie! So that was the Vince McMahon style entry. My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and it's the Analysis Edition.
Indeed.
So we did say 7 in 7, and my God, we're living up to it.
Yes, here we are, Friday night.
Here we are. We've
Post the semis.
Yes, post a semi.
Post-semi.
It's always nice to record post-semi. So we're going to be dealing today, obviously, with a bit of a preview and a bit of a rundown on how we got to where we are right now.
Yes, a bit of a journey.
Bit of a journey. We love a good journey. Australian TV loves a good journey. And
I
Bakeoff,
also like the band journey.
don't stop believing, Kristie.
No, I won't.
Hold on to that feeling. So,
Streetlight peoples.
whoa. So what we're going to do is we're going to look back at the journey, the voyage. Damn Australian Idol for giving us that word, the journey. And we're going to deal in particular with, obviously, the three finalists, which is Claudia, it is Dave, and it is Barb. Now,
indeed.
because this is an analysis edition, though, and you've seen sporting analysis shows, we can't call them this.
No.
It kind of doesn't work. So Dave is the Davinator.
Yes, and then we've got Barb.
What can we go with? Justice.
Justice for Barb.
Justice for Barb. So Barb
Claudia.
is Justice, and Claudia.
Model.
And
the Chiffinator.
The Chiffinator could work.
No, we've got the Davinator.
I like the Medico or the Mind.
Ooh, M-O-M.
M-O-M.
She's going to be a mom.
M-O-M it is. So we've got the Davinator, we've got Justice, and we've got M-O-M. So we're going to have a look today at the way they got to the final, and we're going to have a bit of an evaluation of strengths and or weaknesses, as it were.
Yes.
In the lead-up, to try to give you a chance at home to work out who you think is going to win the Great Australian Bakeoff for 2017-18
Season
hybrid
3, 4.
Yeah.
This time next week.
know.
Thursday.
No, this time next week we'll definitely know.
Yes, this time next week we'll be going, they knew nothing.
Who
They
saw
definitely
that?
had more anal analysis.
Who saw Nadia coming into the shed and winning everything? I didn't, and yet here we are.
Indeed.
So we're going to look back and let's start with week one, and let's start with cakes. Now,
Yes.
I have it on some authority that week one was trickier than it looked.
You think making a kid's cake, I mean, to be honest, it is tricky. You look at everyone, like all of our mates who have kids, right? They go, I'm going to make my kid a birthday cake. And they're up all fucking night. And what they've presented is usually
An extra slice worthy?
an extra slice worthy. And we're not talking about the show us your bakes bit. We're more like, and here's what it should have looked like. And
this is
here's
what
what
it
it
actually
actually
looks
looks
like.
like.
So it was interesting. We had our first real face-off too. In Dave and Barb both made unicorn cakes,
Indeed.
which I thought was quite interesting. So a bit of a
Just on unicorn
okay,
cakes,
go
right?
for it. Oh, you have to. You do actually have to do this.
A friend of mine, I didn't want to say anything because she put up pictures of her 3-year-old's birthday and she'd ordered a unicorn cake. And let's just say it looked like the unicorn was a bit of a dickhead.
It was a penis.
It was a penis.
Look, normally Kristie's the one. It was a penis.
There was no horn about it unless it was horny. But
There was a horn, all right.
It was just not the horn that we were looking for.
And what made it worse was that they made them pose their head down next.
Oh, that's
to
right.
the horn.
Almost looking like it was going to eat it. Oh, it was just.
It was wrong on all fronts.
Oh yes.
So obviously in that week one, they had the marble cake to start off with. Everyone just sort of getting a bit of a feel of it. Dave went with a green cake.
Yes.
So the Davinator started my issue with regards to matcha very early on,
And then he ended with your.
and he's never let up. To be honest with you,
no.
In the technical though, what is quite interesting about the technical is they were all sort of around each other. Claudia for the Madeleines, Claudia was 8th.
Yeah.
Barb was 5th, and Dave was 7th.
I will just point out though, while Barb and Dave had unicorn cakes, Claudia had the pony cake.
She did have the pony cake.
So it was like the hornless unicorn. She's gone, fuck unicorns. Let's get to reality. She really is.
Yo,
the
back
Mako
to
of the
reality.
night.
Yo, here comes gravity. And
yeah.
so I think in that first week there, it was really interesting because, I mean, Robert's Dolly Varden cake obviously ran away with that
Kicked
week
it.
and sort of distracted.
Yeah.
And Raisa did a really amazing job with her peacock cake at the start and her technical. So they sort of they settled in very early on. And the thing is, you don't tend to jump out in the first couple of weeks.
No, they weren't standouts this week, but you know, personality-wise, we knew who they were. So that was
What we did, however, start to see this was that second week. So bread week, and bread week is often one of those trial by fire weeks.
absolutely when people start to pop out of the woodwork like apples in the morning to make you be
Up, ready to greet you. So in that week, we had a couple of bakes here that were kind of really impressive. We'll start with one that ultra impressed you, which was Dave's Enchanted Rose
Enchanted
pull apart.
Rose. You know, it was a pull apart as old as time.
It was. Now, obviously, we saw in the green cake with Dave, we saw his piping, and we saw one of his big strengths was his piping.
But then we saw the Enchanted Rose.
And we saw the delicate nature of his craft work.
He knows how to make a rose.
He does. He's a master of roses. And I think that his presentation in particular of that was first rate.
Yeah. Dave and Ada on point.
So the Dave and Ada really hit that home then. Justice, on the other hand, did a decent job. She learned. What she demonstrated in this one was that she learned from what had happened in the technical.
Yep.
Because the technical was the infamous pumpkin scones. Then she learned from the pumpkin pull apart and said in that episode that she'd actually been paying attention to things they'd picked up during the scones.
Yeah, for her pull apart.
And she adjusted. And I think that that's something that if you're going with, you know, certain nefarious betting agencies and trying to put some money down, that's something you can really keep an eye on.
Yeah, and like this was the first week that we saw Claudia get Star Baker.
Yeah, I think it was the first week that Claudia sort of jumped out, and that was the Edelweiss pull. Hang on, sorry. Edelweiss,
Pulling apart my bread. Oh, it's not how it goes.
I was going to do the real lyrics, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
So she also managed to get second in the pumpkin scones, which was an achievement because, as we said, with the pumpkin scones, you could do it or you couldn't. There was no middle ground there, and that's not really a slight on any bakers at all.
No,
that was,
you're either beloved by the scone gods or you're just not in their favour.
Exactly, and the scone gods in this case were not in a lot of people's favour, but they were, however, in Claudia's favour. And I thought that, again, she wins Star Baker in this week. And it's an interesting little pattern. She wins Star Baker in week 2.
Yeah.
She also then goes on to win Star Baker in week 4 and also goes on to win Star Baker in week 6. She loves those evens.
Ah.
And then was second in week 8. That was when Barb got it. So that was... She loves the even weeks, and of course, the grand final is a week 10. So
an even week.
I can
It's in her
guarantee,
favour.
I can guarantee you, Claudia will be somewhere in the top 3.
Yes. Put that in your predictions,
That's
folks.
a bold statement.
That's something to bet on there.
It's a bold statement, but I predict Claudia will be somewhere between number 1 and number 3.
She might even come in number 2.
She could be number 2. She could be number 1. She could be number 3. Who knows? I'm going to predict though that she doesn't fall outside the top 3 this week.
No. She's going to stick to it. She's in form for 3.
Oh, she's in form for 3, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of 3s, week 3.
Week 3, it was biscuit time.
Week 3 was, well, everyone had sort of a decent-ish week here.
Yeah.
Dave made a really good jam drop, which, as we've learned from talking to everybody, is apparently the hardest technical they've done.
Yes, and Claudia did not do well. She got down in the 10th
Claudia was last in the technical for the jam drop.
Vicky's her kryptonite.
Barb,
Throw Tim Tams at her.
she runs away. Barb came second.
She did,
So
yeah.
that technical, which again is the one that everyone so far has said was just the trickiest technical they've done.
Yep.
That was the one that both Barb and Dave produced a really good result at.
But wasn't Claudia's week.
No, it wasn't.
And Barb got Star Baker that week.
Yeah, I mean, however, what Claudia did make that week, which was a bit awesome, was her scientific biscotti.
Oh,
that was with the drip feeder and the. We got something, and interestingly enough, we haven't really seen that from Claudia again.
No.
You know, the ultra sort of overboard construction pieces. We haven't really seen that from Claudia.
Maybe she's holding on to it. Maybe she's like tested it out to see how it goes in the shed. Maybe she's holding on to it till the final.
Quite possibly. Barb also put together an amazing sunflower.
Oh, that was so pretty.
Which was, and Dave did his Chinese tangram. So, and again, his character work on those were just incredible.
The precision and the delicacy with which he decorated that was out of this world. Definitely the Davinator.
I think the Davinator in this week sort of, and again, first in the technical. The showstopper was good, although there was a bit of a flavour issue, and that's one area which we'll talk about in a minute with Dave, that every now and then it just doesn't
misses the mark. And this is the whole thing, right? We might be talking about strengths and weaknesses in the field, but there is a really thin line between first and last in every single week. You know, we've been saying it consistently that there's been no major stuff-ups. There's been no. Like grand disasters or just something that someone can't do. It's a very fine line, and usually what someone doesn't do the greatest in one part of the show, they do something quite good in the next part.
Exactly, so. And we saw that when we get to Family Favourites.
Yes.
Because Family Favourites was Claudia, again, it's an even week, so it's a Claudia week.
Yes.
And the chicken and leek pie, she came third in that technical, which was a really strong effort there.
And let's not forget the peanut pavlova.
Yeah, so how can we forget the peanut pavlova and getting caught in the rain?
Yeah.
And more importantly, the fact that those poor pavlovas just sort of crumbled and fell apart, and they had to take that into account with the judging as well.
Yeah.
But that's where, Dave did his sweet rainbow pav. Barb made a black forest, which I'm wondering if Claudia's all like, I like that idea. Let's keep that for later. And
she's German, so that's probably all they see.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing. Is the heritage bakes that we've seen a lot of. Actually, Dave's done obviously a lot of heritage bakes.
Yeah,
but Claudia's also used a lot of German heritage.
Yeah,
which has been really good to see. Barb's just making Queensland stuff. So, and there's no complaint.
Queensland, Barbara.
This was, however,
She's the nicest baker.
This was, however, the week that Barb nearly lost me.
Full of the sunshine, the Queensland sunshine. Let's take home a Barb today. There you go.
Take home a Barb today, everybody. So this was the week that Barb nearly lost me.
Why?
Well, she made muffins that featured raisins, which began an argument on Twitter about do raisins belong in muffins.
Oh, but it prompted me to learn something, the difference between raisins and sultanas. Raisins are naturally dried, whereas sultanas are like chemicaled or something. So raisins, not an American thing. Well, they are an American thing, but they're naturally dried. That's the diffs.
See, all I think about then is the California raisins ads with the California, here I come with the roller skating raisin, which
makes so much sense.
To be honest with you, is the only raisin I've ever really appreciated. Is the roller skating one from the California raisins ad. Ads don't have any effect on me, people. I feel like chicken today. Anyway,
I'm just tallying up my little hamper for you for our wedding.
Oh, wow, that's going to be fantastic.
Uzu raisins.
I'm not going to touch any of it. I'm going to throw it at people. So we had pastry week next.
Yum yum. Pastry
now, Dave's pork sausage rolls were apparently quite the triumph.
Oh yes.
As were the kid-friendly sausage rolls, which, if you remember correctly, the kid-friendly sausage rolls featured the sauce of death.
These are kid-friendly if your kids are from like the 7th.
She didn't say that the sauce was kid-friendly.
Just the sausage rolls.
The sausage rolls were kid-friendly. The sauce was pure death. And poor Maggie Beard just
puts on an R rating after you put that sauce on it.
Now, interestingly enough, with pastry week, what we found was that, and may sound a bit controversial, but I think this is one of the only, this and the Black Forest crepe from pastry week onwards are really the only two bakes where Claudia really just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
Not that she's been bad. She hasn't.
No, like we said, everything is a very fine line between first and last at the moment, like between being star baker and going home.
But if you're looking week by week and you're looking at where people sit on the bakes, I mean, Claudia clearly won the Fraser cake technical.
Absolutely.
And then we'll get to batter in a second, and obviously that Black Forest cake
batter
was incredible. But after those two bakes, she doesn't sort of top the charts. And
No.
and interestingly enough, if we go back and we'll go to Battle Week now, if you go to Battle Week, that Black Forest cake didn't just get her star baker. In many ways, it quite potentially saved her.
Yeah, because if she'd have screwed that up, her waffles weren't the waffliest.
It's the closest that I think we saw to Claudia sort of wobbling out. As opposed to Barb, who did this amazing job with the clafouti. Did a really great job with those corny waffles. They're one of my favourite, and we'll talk about this later on. We do favourites and stuff, but her corny waffles are close to one of my favourite bakes.
And why haven't you reproduced them at home, my love?
Because I haven't had time.
Well, there's no
Don't know
time
if you
like
know.
the present.
I don't know
Just
if you know
press
what.
pause and off
I
you
don't know
go.
if you know. I've been preparing 7 podcasts in 7 days.
No, I hadn't heard about that. You know, so
And Dave made the mochi waffles, which were apparently incredible. I mean, there was ingredients in there that I don't care for.
if he doesn't open up a mochi waffle like van or something,
I mean, that's it. It was an incredible concept. And they said the texture on that, because it was the rice, it was a very different texture to all the other ones. And Robert talked about it on the podcast a couple of times that they were unlike anything he's ever eaten before. Matt Moran, when he was sampling on the show, said that these I can't quite get my head around the texture, but these are incredible.
and I've got his jingle, mochi waffle van,
Mochi waffle van. He wants to drive a mochi waffle van. Mochi waffle van. He's selling mochi waffles. There you go. And Barb again nailed the clafouti, nailed the waffles. The ombre cake was very good again. This was the week that was a bit close. So Barb, you can say in this one, Claudia and Barb in this one were like a 1 and 1A.
Yeah.
We had another showdown between Barb and Dave, however, with the ombre crab cake. So it's really interesting that they keep having showdowns. And they keep having these showdowns, and it's really interesting to see how that works.
I don't know how the rest of this.
That's close
is.
enough.
Okay.
Keep going, but they might want a royalty.
Oh, okay.
So, and we're already running risk of the WWE suing us. So let's move on.
It's all right.
Now, officially this was just dessert week. Unofficially, it's free from week. Now, I don't know personally if I should include any of the results from this week because I don't know if I counted. I don't really know if I counted. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why I don't know if I count it. One, if I don't count it, Robert's still there. And, hey, Rob.
Then Claudia might have to come along and schedule you because you're just
Need a moment.
delusions of grandeur there, or delusions.
So we had the dairy-free fruit tarts, where Dave made those raspberry and chocolate ones, which had the really thick chocolate on them. Barb had the decadent chocolate and raspberry, which they absolutely loved, and that was where they were all mixing up what they were using, obviously, for their dairy replacement.
Yeah.
And Claudia's tropical tarts. Again, the decadent chocolate and raspberry tarts looked incredible from Barb, so I gave that signature quite easily to Barb.
Yeah. And they were all, how can I put it, all three of them weren't standouts in this particular week. It was like a bit of a lull week.
Having said that, though, I mean, when we then got to the technical, we really got a demonstration of it, because if you look at the bottom 3, and I think it's the only time this happens. I mean, we don't count obviously the last week because there's only 4 of them.
Exactly.
But in the dessert week, you had 6th, 5th,
Which is Dave.
6th Dave, 5th Barb, 4th Claudia.
Yeah.
So it was really a week where the 3 of them sort of fell to the back of the pack a little bit, and it was a really close run thing there. So I think it was interesting. Dave's rose trifle, again, he's using a lot of flavours that he really loves, which is usually a positive there. The fruit trifle and the alcohol-free Christmas trifle. Now, look, Barb, I think you should have lost points simply for the alcohol-free.
I thought of Dave's new nickname, another nickname, the Matcha Rose of Bakeoff. Oh, the Matcha Rose of Bakeoff.
The Matcha Rose of Bakeoff. I mean, Davinator is more the sort of thing you'll hear around pubs.
Yeah.
And we know that if there's one place where they love talking about the Great Australian Bake-Off, it's at the bar.
Yeah. Particularly fine piping.
All you hear is fine piping talk.
Oh, my gosh. Just walked in to use the loo in our local tavern. the other day, and 3 gentlemen in their fluoro vests were discussing the fine art of fine piping.
Yeah, the rose. All they were talking about was the rose.
And one of them got so overwhelmed.
That he was singing the rose?
He did. He went over to the old piano.
He sat down at the old piano at our local tavern and he started, but he can't sing, unfortunately, so it was spoken word. And some say love.
It is a river that drowns. The tender reed. But unfortunately, before he could get through it, because we were at a tavern and there was jaunty music playing, a guy came up and asked him if he'd join him on a quest.
And the next thing you know, when they walked out on their quest, the other two just started piping on the counter.
Exactly.
And I'll show you a rose. Yeah, mate, that's not a rose. This is a rose. And the next thing you know, a bouquet of flowers appeared. Yeah. And you all want to come to our local tavern now, don't you?
Yeah,
so do we.
It's a great place.
So do we. Laying Pipe Central. No, that's a different concept altogether. Moving on. That's actually probably closer to the reality of a lot of taverns around the place. This is the
analysis show where there is more anal than Alice's. So.
We've only had a little bit of anal. All right, so British Week.
Yes.
Now, this was the week where Dave went a little bit nuts. And the Davidators programming appeared to be set on monarchist. And I wasn't sure if he was celebrating the monarchy, if he was praising the monarchy, if he was preparing to be the next monarch.
Yeah.
So what I'm worried about here, and as a possible weakness, is that the programming can occasionally go haywire.
Yeah, if they throw out something like to do with the Queen,
if it becomes 80s dance-off week, though. The programming could get stuck and he could footloose his way out of the shed.
What if he gets too carried away with giving smart aleck comments?
Oh, we saw that.
Yeah, or just
he's broken his programming and started to be sassy.
Yeah,
it's always the dangerous part of any movie is when the robot shows emotion.
Yes, it is, because then things just start going wrong. It's all well and good for the happy montage, but then something happens
and becomes a big problem after that.
Yeah.
So in that week, obviously Dave did really well on the Bakewell slice. Mm-hmm. Claudia came third that week in the technical for the Bakewell, and Barb came fourth. But Barb then made that tower bridge pudding.
Oh,
that
wow.
was sensational. And Claudia and Dave then had the showdown. Dave's had a lot of showdowns with people.
I know. He's had the Queen of Puddings. She had the Queen of Puddings.
Exactly. They both had Queens of Puddings. The problem they said for poor Dave was that Dave's was very trifle-esque.
Yeah, less pudding, more trifle.
Which is difficult with a Queen of Puddings, because the Queen of Puddings is pretty much a trifle.
Is that an actual thing?
Yeah, it's a real thing. And they are very close to trifle.
Oh, I thought it was just a name they put.
No, it wasn't the name they gave it. It's actually Queen of Puddings.
But then we also had the Tower of Pudding and the Tower Bridge of Pudding.
That was a bit different, though. One of them had a bridge to be cracked open, and the other one was as big as a contestant.
You just needed an abseil.
I actually would like to have seen Emma or Jess in the shed at the same time as Chris producing the Tower of Pudding. Because you could have possibly hidden them inside it. And it would have been okay.
At least all of Emma's bakes, all of the dainty bakes.
All of Emma's dainty bakes wouldn't have taken up the bottom layer.
No. I did see a little Sylvester Stallone, hanging from one. Really cliffhanger action.
And that brings us to Celebration Week. So...
Celebrate good times.
Come on.
I just have to say...
Okay.
Chris, you started singing Celebration, and I hope it was the Kool and the Gang version, because if it was the Kylie Minogue version, then I have to have a word with you, because that's you should have put up a trigger warning, because some of you
never got to see the Queensland Pavilion at the Expo 88.
Queensland Pavilion and Expo 88, and it's a real sore point for them. And I'm just saying that if you're being in consideration for people who come back from post Expo 88 trauma stuff.
Are there support groups?
There is. It's very popular with those who have suffered this pain.
So obviously, if you know anyone who suffered hate pain, please get in touch with us here at... Are you okay?
Right? No, yeah.
You're fine.
I'm fine.
You're just singing on behalf of the people. The people who survived. Yeah. So anyway, Celebration Week. Dave
celebrations.
Dave had that elegance cake, which again goes to show one of his big strengths, which is his presentation. Claudia tried to bring something back out again where she went with the feathered lovebirds, which Matt didn't quite understand the feathering concept.
Because they're birds, Matt. Birds have feathers.
Well done. Thank you for explaining that to him. And we can't even say about the technical because
How they fly, Matt.
we can't even say about the technical.
It's because dinosaurs grew feathers and then they became birds, Matt.
It's okay. It's okay.
What, do you think it's now?
He's in Texas. He can't hear you.
Matt, can you hear me? No, I'm kidding.
Anyway, so the technical, we can't even say they did well at technical because none of them won it.
No.
In a week where there were 4 people and there's only 3 left.
Yep.
None of them won it.
And this is the whole thing. This is proof in the pudding, week after the pudding, that the difference between the first, the people who are Star Baker and the people who go home is wafer thin.
Exactly, it's wafer thin. So let's go through what we think are strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
So we'll start with Claudia. Now, strengths.
Strengths, she's really good at doing multiple types of bakes to create one thing. So like that
Many elements.
Many elements, that's the word.
So the feathered lovebird thing, for example, with the layers, and that bottom 2 tiers where she had like 18 layers.
Yep, and don't forget her Black Forest trifle that had like, chocolate work on it.
And there were flavours in between too. It wasn't just the one flavour all the way through.
No.
Yeah, multiple steps and multi-flavours.
And her Venus No, wasn't there when she pulled out fucking bee stings and all this other shit, and that was just part of her thing.
So she's really good when it comes to those multi-stage bakes.
Yes.
I think that she's very consistent as well. You're not going to get a bake that's an utter disaster.
No, she's been Star Baker 3 times for a good reason.
She's been the most consistent Star Baker. She's won Star Baker 3 times.
Yeah.
And a couple of other weeks there was close. So she's been very consistent. Now, weaknesses. I think
biscuits.
Biscuits, obviously, are a potential weakness. The other weakness I would suggest, and it sounds weird to say this given the Black Forest, for example, but I think that while her presentation can be good, it's not her strongest suit. And I think she's up against 2 people who do very, very strong presentation.
Yeah, but she's
Barb and Dave do, and especially Dave. And we'll get to Dave in a minute with that. Presentation is everything.
Yeah.
And in a showstopper, especially with a finale on the line, they're going to want to see something probably that's out of this world.
Yeah, and she's had a lot of strong presentations, but then she's had some that have just flown under the radar.
Yeah.
And she hasn't been in her stride in the past few episodes.
Yeah, she's been looking for it. You can see it. I mean, I think the feathered lovebirds thing last night, I think the decoration on the outside was trying to get back to that sort of flow of that presentation. Yeah. So I think that's a real interesting way to look at it. I think that's an interesting weakness to examine.
Yeah.
Barb.
Yes.
Okay, so Barb's strengths.
Well, flair and get eye-catching presentation.
Yep. I think that she's the biggest risk taker of the 3 with regards to flavour in particular.
Absolutely.
She's prepared to go out on a limb to chase that really strong, really awesome flavour that you're not really expecting. I think we saw that. We've seen that a few times from Barb. The pumpkin pull apart immediately following the scones. Sounds weird to say that's going out on a limb, but that's back to backing something like that's a really big risk.
Yep.
I think that also with Barb, I mean, you've got the corny waffles. That everyone else is going sweet or thinking sweet. She goes really savoury, but gets those textures just spot on. Yeah,
her understanding of flavour profiles as well as texture profiles, which are extremely important, is quite advanced.
She made me also really want to have a cake without dairy in it, and that takes effort.
Exactly. So she's really good at not only taking risks, but I think that's her strength, is actually in taking risks and going with what is true to her form.
The other thing I will say, though, with Barb, which is a potential problem, is that it seems that every second week she has a bit of an off one.
Yeah.
She's had, if you go through, for example, and check out her run through the show, if we just go off the idea of technicals, for example, she goes 5th and then 8th, and then she goes 2nd, and then she goes 5th, and then she goes 2nd, and then she goes 1st, so has a good one there, then she goes 5th, then 4th again.
Yeah.
And then, so again, she sort of fluctuates around that middle of the pack. She has, when she does something outstanding, right, it's blow away good. But if she doesn't hit it,
then she's middling.
She's middling and the flavour doesn't quite get where it needs to go.
And we do need to remember, what was it that she made? The pie. There was something that just fell.
The pie collapsed.
The pie collapsed, yes.
So the pie collapsed completely. I think that, I mean, you could see it as a strength or a weakness that she's had a couple of times where she's baked for a life.
Yeah.
And managed to pull that out. Which is possibly a strength in a grand final, but also possibly a weakness because you've needed to fight so hard consistently just to stay there.
Exactly. And Dave's had to do that too. He's had to bake for his life. He's had to bake for his life.
So his strengths, I mean, there's obvious, is presentation.
Holy shit, yes.
Presentation.
Yep. And also, what's it called? Precision.
Yeah, precision. He is the most precise baker I've ever seen in the shed.
He has a tool for levelling cakes.
Which, by the way, Robert
Perfectly.
talked about last night, and he said that he understood Dave's comment because he has one too, and he would have to contemplate when leaving the house what he would take because it is amazing. But I think that the precision that Dave shows and the ability that Dave has to be so precise and do that amount of work. I mean, the rose, for example.
Yep.
And
he makes it look effortless.
Yeah, the floating elegance cake was a really good idea.
And as we've heard from all the other bakers who we've interviewed, is that when they've been around Dave in the shed, it's like calm. A little bubble of calm there.
Now, my thing with Dave, though, is that occasionally it can feel too methodical.
Yeah.
And baking does have, and it sounds really cliche to say
you need a bit of love in it.
You need a bit of love. You need to have a bit of that emotion, a bit of that passion with it, and you need to sort of, really envision it and work on something that's ultra creative. And I think that at times when Dave gets an idea, it's amazing. But if Dave doesn't have a blow-away idea that he thinks is amazing,
and he's invested in,
it gets just really methodical. And I'm going to do a good job. And I mean, look, last night
it becomes too complex. He gets carried away, and it becomes too complex.
I actually think last night the line that he said that we pointed out in the recap show, where he said, "Of course, I knew I was going to come first." It's a technique that I've developed, and it's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
I think that actually plays into a bit to his weakness because this is the way I'm going to do it because I know this works.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, or if something doesn't go the way that Dave anticipates it to go, I don't know how well he can improvise and rebound.
No, because remember he had to chuck out. It was last night, wasn't it? There was something. His fruit tarts, his mince tarts, the pastry didn't go right, and he had to throw. And we didn't see that, but he did mention it. At the judging,
and he came 4th in the technical.
Yeah.
So he did out of 4. So he didn't manage to scramble as well as he would have liked. I think that emotion, I think he can be too clinical and methodical for baking. And also occasionally the flavour profiles, sometimes he blows it out of the park, but I think his misses are bigger.
Yeah.
So if there's a technical and a showstopper that plays to Dave's strengths, big chance. But if it's something that's a little bit off for him, he could well just blow right past it.
It's like he's very he's very what's the word? Like he's like not enslaved by his muses, but you know what I mean. Like he's very taken by his muses, and when something is right and it's in his head and he knows what he's going to produce, it comes out fabo.
Exactly. So once Dave can see it, then methodically he's going to his goal.
And he can be it.
Be it. He believes he can fly. And let's face it, he could probably build the machine to fly.
Yeah, his cake floated.
His cake did float. So he could
maybe next step, he's got a flying bake next week. It was only that way up.
So I think what we've been able to do in this episode, I think we've been able to give you all a really good rundown between the Davinator, between Justice, and between MOM. And I think that what we've really sort of got across here, I think, is that it's a really close grand final.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, on Twitter, we want to hear who you think is probably going to come out on top.
Yeah.
So send those predictions in. Also, remember that we've got coming up towards the end of the week, the Virgies.
Yes.
So any more categories you want us to put forward awards for, please listen to that.
And when you're nominating for the Virgies and you haven't yet, just go and vote for the Bakeoff in the Logies.
Yeah, do all of that. Get all of that on board. Now, obviously, later on this week, we're going to be talking to Chris That'll be a bit of fun. Hoping still to talk to a few other people as well. There may be a couple of people from America we could even be talking to.
Well, howdy, y'all.
They don't talk like that.
I'm just practicing.
They don't talk like that.
Yes,
although
they do.
Although you might want to go and listen to...
They go, yeehaw.
Not on Gin and Cake, they don't. And you might want to go and listen to episodes of Gin and Cake where they're talking about the Nuttier series. Is it the Nuttier series or the...
Yeah, Nutty
it's the Nuttier series at the moment of the Great British Bakeoff. So give them a listen. We might be talking to those fine ladies this week. If not, it'll be in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
So we've got lots of episodes. You're not going to be missing us. Up until then, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we'll catch you all, well, let's face it, tomorrow.
Yar!